Las Vegas just orchestrated a violently aggressive free agent takeover that shook the entire league. Yet this ambush caught everyone completely off guard. A freshly crowned championship mastermind takes charge, wielding the top draft prize, and snags 7 elite starters instantly. To crown this absolute madness, a spectacularly blown trade miraculously returned their ultimate defensive titan to the roster without sacrificing a solitary future draft asset. We expected a slow, agonizing rebuild. Instead, this spring exploded into an absolutely terrifying masterclass. Clint Kubiak possessed supreme leverage and endless offers, yet deliberately selected this brutal arena. Surveying their vast wealth, the premier selection, massive financial liberty, and fierce young core he boldly accepted. Now ignite that spark with Fernando Mendoza, the legendary collegiate kingpin victor. Boasting 41 spectacular passing strikes against a mere 6 errors, he enters a pristine quarterback haven. Kubiak routinely morphs mere mortals into gods. This brilliant tactician dragged vastly inferior squads to eternal glory. Now, grasping the most phenomenal arm talent of his storied career, the stage is set before day one even dawns. Yet the real terror of this roster extends far beyond a star signal caller and his genius mentor. It lies within their lethal depth. A wildly historic center acquisition stands alongside a violently terrifying linebacker tandem. We behold a relentless trench attack, granting Maxx Crosby unprecedented lethal support, plus a brilliant stealth acquisition out of Seattle, screaming pure championship ambition. Each calculated strike interlocks flawlessly. The revolution ignites through the singular warrior destined to conquer all. Before diving into the madness, smash those like and subscribe triggers for ultimate gridiron action. Help us obliterate 500 thumbs up. Being drafted at the pinnacle brings soul-crushing expectations. But Fernando Mendoza avoids the usual toxic ruins. Instead, he marches into a flawless schematic utopia, crafted purely for his exact gifts. Standing 6'5", 240 pounds, unleashing impossible blindside bullets. That signature magic missile absolutely obliterates any competition from his incoming peers. Curt Cignetti forged his fury at Indiana via deceptive read options, rapid flanks, and aerial bombings, while evaluators also praised his masterful, professional temporal rhythm. Forget a learning curve. This warrior arrives totally battle-tested. Now brace for the climax. Clint Kubiak resurrected Sam Darnold up in Seattle by perfectly weaponizing his unique traits. Deceptive rollouts, precision striking, and brutal rushing attacks spawning gigantic aerial fireworks. He refused to painfully constrain his pupil, unleashing absolute chaotic freedom that birthed a magical career pinnacle. A breathtaking, transcendent campaign cemented by ultimate championship glory. Previously, Derek Carr enjoyed an unearthly month under Kubiak down south until tragedy struck hard. The blueprint is undeniable. Kubiak demands sheer willpower over sheer perfection. Yet today, he commands the most physically monstrous prodigy he's ever seen. Should they preach patience, Kirk Cousins provides a rock-solid shield for 5 to 8 brutal weeks. He fully grasped this ruthless attack from his Minnesota era with Kevin O'Connell, having phenomenally guided Michael Phoenix Jr. down in Atlanta. Absolute humility, zero theatricals. Yet rest assured, Mendoza seizes the throne upon his entrance. Furthermore, the staggering weapons surrounding him guarantee a seamless rise. 3 years, $81 million. That monumental fortune brought Tyler Linderbaum to the desert, crowning him the most expensive interior trench warrior ever known to the sport. He totally justifies every penny. He absolutely transcends your basic snapping duties. He is a terrifying athletic mutant who explodes into the second level and brutally massacres helpless linebackers in devastating open space. He passionately confessed choosing the desert due to extreme faith in this brilliant brain trust, dubbing their colossal compound unreal. Claiming instant kinship with the city, he highlighted a flawless synergy with Kubiak's legendary schemes. Just imagine the monstrous impact on Ashton Junty. A brutal last year yielded 975 yards, 5 scores, and a bleak 3.7 mark. That singular horrific statistic screams volumes. The instant he grasped the rock, savage defenders engulfed him. His trench protectors failed miserably. Leaders lacked answers. Yet facing Houston's elite annihilating defensive juggernaut, he still exploded for sheer madness. His raw, supernatural talent remained unquestioned. The pathetic blocking just vanished. Linderbaum commands the vital pivot point while Jackson Powers Johnson utterly terrorizes his natural home at the guard spot. Colton Miller barricades the edge. We now behold 3 terrifying gladiators shielding the passer and blasting giant craters. Toss in Connor Hayward, the ex-Michigan State tight end, deploying as a dynamic fullback weapon, unlocking Kubiak's violently unpredictable shapeshifting. This trench unit aggressively morphed from a laughingstock into an impenetrable fortress virtually overnight. Now, their explosive tailback prepares to show the entire league his horrifying true form in massive open space. Critics relentlessly shriek that this Sin City roster severely lacks an elite alpha dog. On paper, they might be right, but those fools completely ignore the brilliant truth. A vintage primary target becomes utterly obsolete when a ruthless, multi-pronged aerial assault runs through a god-tier tight end. Brock Bowers remains an absolute pass-catching juggernaut. Whether catching ducks from Geno Smith, Gardner Minshew, or Aiden O'Connell, this magnificent beast utterly destroyed opposing coverages. He defied logic on every snap. As a transcendent cornerstone, feeding him via a genuinely lethal quarterback will violently skyrocket his already insane stats. Next, inject pure lightning. Jaylen Nailor abandons Minnesota on a massive 3-year, $35 million pact. He torched foes for 15 yards a grab and 4 brilliant scores, despite lurking behind Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. This guy is the absolute rocket downfield Kubiak has been craving. Back in New Orleans, Rashid Shaheed was his ultimate weapon for blowing coverage apart. Even in Seattle, he fought aggressively to acquire Shaheed. Today, Nailor steps into that exact explosive blueprint. Throw Trey Tucker into the mix, a guy who exploded for 700 receiving yards and 5 scores last year, despite being trapped in a dysfunctional offense, completely lacking a reliable signal caller. Put him in a functional system, and you are staring right at a 1,000-yard trajectory. On top of that arsenal, Jack Bez from TCU is lurking in the shadows, an electrifying young wideout starved of playing time by the old regime, simply because entrenched veterans hogged every single target. Do not forget about Michael Mayer, who is screaming for a heavier workload at tight end. With Kubiak orchestrating this attack, prepare yourselves for a relentless barrage of heavy, 2 tight end formations. The upcoming rookie pool is overflowing with elite pass catchers, making it incredibly likely they snatch another lethal threat in the 2nd or 3rd round. The offensive arsenal is fully stocked. Conversely, the Las Vegas Raiders have endured an absolute nightmare in the middle of their defense for what feels like an eternity. Just look at last year, when they were forced to deploy former safety Jamal Adams at linebacker. Do not misunderstand. Adams possesses undeniable talent. However, demanding a defensive back to anchor the box against the most terrifying offensive juggernauts in the league is just begging for absolute catastrophe. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs ruthlessly dissected that weakness time after time. They relentlessly exploited the intermediate zones, firing quick strikes to tight ends that a transplanted safety simply cannot survive against. Those days of misery are finally dead. Enter Quay Walker, defecting from the Green Bay Packers on a massive 3-year, $40 million contract, locked in with $20 million completely guaranteed, boasting 58 unassisted takedowns, 2.5 quarterback hunts, and a terrifying aura as the most violently punishing run destroyer in the game. This man is an absolute enforcer, dominating the trenches during crucial 3rd down collisions and terrifying offensive lines at the goal line. He is the type of monster who strikes fear into a quarterback pre-snap. Now, pair that aggression with his former Georgia brother-in-arms, Nakobe Dean, defecting from the Philadelphia Eagles via a 3-year, $36 million pact. Dean brings an entirely distinct breed of chaos. He attacks the pocket like a missile, shadows massive targets across the shallow zones, and when operating at full capacity, he single-handedly dismantles opposing offensive strategies. Yes, the medical red flags exist, but a peak condition Dean is an elite, game-altering force. This specific duo is critical given the brutal gauntlet of their division. Denver features Bo Nix and Sean Payton, who ruthlessly pound the rock while deploying Evan Ingram to shred the seams. Meanwhile, Justin Herbert and his Chargers have bullied Vegas in the trenches for years. Suddenly, the silver and black possess a pair of gladiators capable of dictating the point of attack, neutralizing ground games, and blanketing the passing lanes. Theoretically, we might be staring at the most terrifying second level in the entire American Football Conference right now. And incredibly, the front office has not even made a single draft selection yet. Brace yourselves for a statistical reality that will leave the entire fan base stunned. For half a decade, Maxx Crosby has waged war without a single legitimate terror rushing from the opposite flank. Zero help. Management made attempts. They secured defensive monster Christian Wilkins for the interior, only to watch a devastating foot trauma and extracurricular drama completely vaporize that experiment before kickoff even happened. There is a very real chance his career on the gridiron is permanently over. They gambled a premium first-round asset on Tyree Wilson, but the impact remained practically non-existent. Physical setbacks anchored him down, and that promised explosive first step barely materialized. What was heralded as a franchise-altering acquisition devolved into nothing more than a part-time rotational contributor. Crosby has shouldered the monumental burden of this pass rush all by himself for ages. Kwity Paye changes that equation entirely. 3 years, $48 million, stolen directly from the Indianapolis Colts. Let us face the brutal truth here. He is not a transcendent, Hall of Fame quarterback hunter. However, this unit does not require that caliber of player. They desperately require a lethal secondary weapon who can obliterate solo blocks whenever terrified offensive coordinators shift their entire protection schemes toward Crosby. That specific chaos is exactly what Paye brings to the table. He delivers an unrelenting wave of hostility from the perimeter. While Crosby magnetizes massive double teams on his flank, Paye is about to feast on the most unobstructed paths to the quarterback he has ever witnessed. Backing up that lethal duo, Malcolm Coney returns via a 1-year, $11 million agreement. A couple of seasons back, he racked up 8.5 sacks, looking like a supernova until a devastating knee blowout completely erased his follow-up campaign. At just 27 years of age, his undeniable synergy with Crosby is massive, forged through a deep brotherhood both in the trenches and in civilian life. Throw Wilson into the mix as a situational attacker, and miraculously, this edge-rushing arsenal is 4 men deep. Enter their fresh defensive mastermind, Rob Leonard, earning an internal elevation. He brings familiar energy, an established gritty culture, and a ruthless comprehension of the division's dynamics. Suddenly, this front seven looks downright lethal. The blockbuster exchange was locked in. 2 premium first-round selections, one in 2026 and another in 2027, were ticketed for Sin City to pry Maxx Crosby away. He hopped a jet to Baltimore. He submitted to the medical evaluations, and instantly, the monumental agreement shattered. The Ravens completely backed out, blaming the medical exams. Yet Crosby had just battled through almost all of the 2025 campaign with a shredded meniscus. Following his operation in January, this warrior is already pushing through lower body rehab and crushing intense upper body iron. He remains perfectly scheduled for a full medical green light by the end of July. So, does anyone actually believe this was a medical decision, or is there a massive cover-up happening here? After all, Baltimore has a notorious history of pulling this exact stunt. Back in 2020, their doctors sabotaged a 3-year, $30 million contract for defensive powerhouse Michael Brockers, who immediately signed and dominated for Detroit instead. Rewind to 2018, when Eric DeCosta served directly under A.Z. Newsome. The franchise suddenly voided a massive 4-year, $29 million agreement with wideout Ryan Grant. Digging even deeper into 2005, they failed offensive lineman Roberto Garza just 12 months post-operation. Garza famously claimed their doctors told him his anterior cruciate ligament was completely missing. The Chicago Bears swooped in, and that supposedly broken man suited up for 160 of his next 166 matchups over a decade. 4 absolute blockbuster deals shattered by 4 extremely convenient medical failures. Representatives around the National Football League are now loudly debating if sending their premium talent to Maryland is even worth the monumental risk. Prepare for the most mind-blowing twist in this entire saga, though. Numerous insiders firmly believe that collapsed megatrade is the sole reason Vegas snagged Tyler Linderbaum. The financial reality is that Baltimore lacked the capital to secure both Crosby and Linderbaum simultaneously. Meanwhile, Crosby has boldly declared to the world his intentions to bleed silver and black until the day he retires. The Silver and Black managed to retain their premier superstar, acquire the absolute elite pivot man in the sport, and miraculously surrender zero future draft capital along the way. Occasionally, the most brilliant maneuvers fly completely under the radar, and the vast majority of the fan base swiped right past this hidden gem. Forget the blockbuster payouts or glamorous media events. This was merely a forgotten whisper on the waiver wire that virtually the entire world ignored. Enter Derek Young, 27 years of age, standing 6'2", and tipping the scales at 244 pounds of pure muscle, burning turf with a blistering 4.440-yard sprint. Drafted in the 7th round out of Division II Lenoir Rhine, he battled through 42 professional matchups for the Seattle Seahawks without ever claiming a starting role. Hauling in a meager 4 receptions for 72 yards over 3 grinding campaigns might seem completely meaningless on a stat sheet. However, this stealthy acquisition screams absolute volumes regarding how the front office is forging this squad, far more than any blockbuster trade ever could. Serving as the primary coverage weapon for the Pacific Northwest last year, he transformed into an absolute human torpedo. Whenever the punting unit took the turf, he was launching himself into the fray with violent intentions to obliterate the return game. Flash back to the ferocious National Football Conference title clash against Los Angeles. Chaos erupted during a botched return attempt, and our relentless warrior had already materialized on the scene. He had rocketed furiously along the boundary, delivering a massive, game-altering collision precisely when winter playoff stakes were at their absolute highest. Back in his collegiate days at Lenoir Rhine, the coaching staff scrambled to invent creative methods to feed him the rock. Whether lining up in the backfield, split out wide, or catching kicks, he was the undisputed focal point. Possessing that terrifying blend of gargantuan size and blazing velocity forces tacticians to adapt on the fly. This freak of nature also dominated the high school circuit as a 300-meter track star and a sensational force on the hardwood. Enter the newly appointed Special Units Maestro, Joe DeCamillis, a ruthless commander who absolutely requires untamed ferocity and cutthroat rivalry from every single warrior under his command. Our newly acquired weapon embodies that savage mentality flawlessly. He is a profoundly motivated underdog who violently scratched and clawed his way from a Division II program to the pinnacle of the sport, ultimately hoisting a championship trophy. Behold, the breathtaking philosophy of Clint Kubiak manifesting flawlessly. Ranging from an $81 million juggernaut like Tyler Linderbaum down to the most unheralded depth piece, every single warrior injected into this locker room bleeds the exact same fundamental essence: unbreakable resilience, lethal adaptability, and a ferocious, burning desire to shock the world. The men in black and silver refuse to merely stockpile gifted athletes. They are aggressively constructing an unstoppable empire, and this furious spring restructuring is merely the opening salvo.